Marshall University is West Virginia's second biggest university after West Virginia University in Morgantown. It was founded in 1837, making Marshall older than West Virginia itself. Despite its rich history, not much people know about its special collections inside Morrow Library. Morrow Library was built in 1930, serving as the university's main library until 1998, when the Drinko Library was built. Today, it is home to the Department of Natural Resources and Environment within the College of Science and the Special Collections Department. Throughout this presentation, Department Head Lori Thompson will give highlights of unique collections housed in this university.
Special Collections here at Marshall University is the home to all things related to the university. So we have all the archival materials, such as the student newspapers and yearbooks and scrapbooks and photos. But we also are home to all the materials that are in the community too. So we have business papers, photos, family photos, materials from different families who live in Huntington. So I jokingly refer to us as the university junk drawer. We have a little bit of everything, and it is our mission to make sure that these materials are preserved and used for student research.
The Special Collections houses hundreds of years of works, whether it's a book from the 1500s all the way to the present day.
That's a lot of years without people maintaining the history of the university. We were going up for a accreditation review in the 70s, and we're told that we didn't have anything unique for researchers here at Marshall. Many of our materials were the same things that other universities had. And so one of the things that makes Marshall unique is that we preserve the materials from the university and the community right here in the university.
Much of the history of Huntington area and Marshall is recorded in the photographs. Take a look at Buskirk Hall in the 1960s. As you can see, it's being under construction. There are pictures of interiors of buildings too. At one period of time, the entire Marshall's campus was in Old Main, including dorms, classrooms, and libraries. In front of today's financial aid office, Old Main once had a porch. This was where students could relax in the outdoors and enjoy the view.
So we rely a lot on donations from people who have collected these things over their lifetime. Many of the collectors and the collections we have were Marshall graduates at one point. Much of the growth that we've had has been through the graciousness of people who have gone on to do great things and realize the importance of preserving those things.
One of Lori's colleagues, Lindsay Harper, enjoys the collections Mildred Mitchell Bateman donated, a Marshall graduate within the health professions field.
If you don't know who Mildred Mitchell Bateman is, she was a renowned psychiatrist and psychologist who worked in the Huntington area.
Along with the Special Collections, a medical center in Huntington has been named after Bateman.
So if I had to pick just one collection, I think that it would be that, because that collection is also what made me want to become an archivist in the first place.
Marshall's student newspaper, The Parthenon, was established in 1898. Since then, the Special Collections archives all of their articles posted within the Parthenon.
All of the early journalism that was done by students of the Parthenon are preserved here in the archives.
The Parthenon is still the starting point for college journalists on Marshall's campus. Sarah Davis, the managing editor, shares her experience at the Parthenon.
Yeah, so one of the best things about working at the Parthenon is that we do produce an actual physical copy of a newspaper. And I always grab a couple of copies every single week. And so we always have that, you can have that for yourself, physical paper. But we also have the website, which dates back for a couple of years. And then, as you know, Marshall Digital Scholar also stores all of the Parthenon prints.
Recently, we've started digitizing all of those to make them available for students and researchers across the world. And we are still currently doing them and adding them every week to the internet. So it is an honor to preserve the work that our journalistic students do, but they also cover so much in the community that provides context and information about times in the past.
Like many people on Marshall's campus, Sarah does not know much about the Parthenon's history.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know a whole lot about the history of the Parthenon, other than that it's been around for a long time, longer than the collections have been. But I think just in general, there's such a rich history with the Parthenon. I mean, all the time we hear people say, I remember my times at the Parthenon, and I remember this, I remember that. And so I think Parthenon has always been a vital piece of history for Marshall University, and I think will continue to be that as we look towards the future.
Every week, the Parthenon is published for the public to read and to record history of the university. Beyond Marshall, there are other people within West Virginia, including Chuck Yeager, who wanted their artifacts stored within the special collections.
Chuck Yeager is a West Virginian who was known most famously for being the first man to ever fly faster than the speed of sound. It's hard to imagine now that that was an unheard of thing, but he was a test pilot. He flew in the Air Force originally and was a test pilot. Unheard of thing, but he was a test pilot. He flew in the Air Force originally and was a test pilot, and they were working with engineers to determine how to fly faster than the speed of sound. And along with that, he has a lot of materials.
Flying faster than the normal speed sound makes Yeager an influential figure not only to West Virginia history, but also aviation history.
And so over his years, not only did he break the sound barrier, but he became pretty famous. And he wrote a book, and he was working with lots of other aviation engineers to develop better planes. And he decided that all of those materials should be here at Marshall and be used for students and researchers who would like to research more about aviation, because it was a very fascinating and very long career. So lots of materials. We have a museum dedicated to him, but we also have his diaries, his letters, materials he wrote to his wife while he was deployed in the military, correspondence with famous astronauts. He trained a lot of astronauts at NASA. So we have a lot of those papers that are just irreplaceable. I mean, nobody else has them. We're the only place.
Yeager's legacy continues today, as he is named after places in an airport in Charleston, West Virginia, and an elevator in the Tampa airport in Florida.
So he's a very famous West Virginian, and it's awesome that other people know of him and know of his legacy. He did a lot of work for the aviation, so we like to highlight his work, and we love to highlight he chose Marshall to leave his materials here. And it is quite an honor that we now have an aviation program here at Marshall.
Staying within the aviation field, not all aviation-related events are exciting. In fact, some are tragic, including the Marshall plane crash, which is the deadliest sports-related tragedy in American history.
We do have the original athletic materials from the students who unfortunately perished on the plane that crashed. So because they were part of the university athletics department, we have a lot of their photos and memorabilia and things related to that time, which it's an honor to preserve. Their families come back every year for the memorial service and love to be able to talk about their family member who died.
Every year, members of the Marshall community from across the country and the globe come to Marshall's campus to see the fountain turned on.
54 years, 75 people. We honor and we praise and remember. We go forward. Tragedy to triumph, ashes to glory.
On July 2024, the memorial fountain has been added to the National Register of Historic Places.
And I think it's such a touching story. It really impacted our community, and that it still impacts our community. And so it was a former history student here at Marshall who works now at the state, who worked on that project to get the fountain on the National Historic Registry, which is such a huge honor, I'm sure, and that Marshall has that forever as a National Historic Place.
Not only there is a fountain ceremony, the Marshall community also memorializes the crash in different ways.
This is the addition from the memorial for the 75 and the Marshall plane crash. And so we have a memorial page for the front, and we also have a story that is rerun from 1970 about Jeff Nathan, who unfortunately passed away in the crash. He was a sports editor at the Parthenon at the time.
Since 1970, this tragedy has been taught to many generations, as this event will not be forgotten. In the 2000s, 2 feature films were produced. One was Ashes to Glory, a documentary release in the year 2000. In 2006, Joseph Nickel, professionally known as MCG, produced We Are Marshall. Some of the movie props, including the clothes worn by Matthew McConaughey, who played as Jack Langle, are housed within the special collection. As the 1970 plane crash serves as a major chapter in Marshall's history, another collection shows another major chapter in American history, the Civil War.
The Rosanna Blake Library of Civil War is another just gem of materials that she collected that are a wealth of information. And one of the things I'd like to highlight about her collection is that she also left a scholarship here. So there is a full ride scholarship for an English master's student or a history master's student if they're interested in Civil War history or writings, that they can get their college paid for by some of her money.
This lesser-known collection shows the perspectives of both the Union and the Confederacy, including its troops. Other artifacts include newspapers from southern states and personal artifacts from Rosanna A. Blake. Blake began her collection by donating this Wayne Whipple book about Robert E. Lee. On the bottom shelf shows actual weapons from the Civil War. The Civil War featured a variety of weapons, ranging from swords, cannons, and guns. Most colored drawings from the Civil War were from the first half, because the South relied a lot on the North when it came to paper. And then, a blockade hit the South, making the paper more difficult to find. This artwork, for example, shows Robert E. Lee and other generals within the Confederacy. Returning to Huntington history, there are panoramas from the 1910s. This photograph dates from 1913, when a major flood hit from the Ohio River. Old Main is like an island in this photograph. This panorama of the flooding records Marshall's history by photography. Historical photographs is one major source from the special collections. They tell a story of what Marshall was like back then and what it is today. And one thing Lori likes about the collections is they are not sealed from the public. They can come in and see those photographs themselves.
So I think the one thing I love about this department and this collections of materials is that we are open to the public. We are not just gatekeepers and museum curators. We want you to use your materials that are for you. You can look at the diaries. You can touch the original Parthenon from the 1800s. We are very interested in making sure that students and community members know that this space is for them as well. So come up here and explore and let us show you all the cool things. And you're welcome to visit anytime we're open, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. Not enough people know we exist.
Most members of the Marshall community have never heard of the special collections. Some professors organize field trips for their students so they can go upstairs to the second floor of Morrow Library and to be introduced to the historical artifacts housed at Marshall's campus. They range from Huntington's history all the way to world history. And there's also archives from student organizations, departments, and more. Laurie is passionate about archiving the university's history. She is eager to help students and the community to work on projects about history, including this presentation. This museum-like library offers as a great source on Marshall's campus. And as there is already a room dedicated to Chuck Yeager, it has the possibility of being upgraded to a full-scale museum, along with the influential story of Marshall football.
I love helping students with projects, and again, any opportunity I get to share our materials. So I thank you today for reaching out. It is an honor to assist you, and if you need anything, you know where I'm at.